Indigenous Women's Alliance, let me introduce Terrence Littlewater and Kathleen Hays.
And Petu Waste Maske. Good day, my dear woman friends. I am the Chief Executive Officer of the South Carolina Indian Affairs Commission and the Committee Advisor to the Indigenous Women's Alliance. We are wearing red today to bring attention to the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women. 1 out of every 10 Native American woman is murdered or is missing, with no judicial resolution. Our dominant societies, predominantly male police force, judicial system, and government officials show no particular concern about this horrific epidemic. We need electoral justice to find justice for our women. Our Indigenous Women's Alliance Committee Chair, Kathleen Hays, is going to tell you a bit more about this in a moment. But first, I want to read a message to you in the form of a resolution from the South Carolina Indian Affairs Commission. Whereas the South Carolina Indian Affairs Commission advocates for the empowerment of women as leaders in our communities, local, state, and federal government. Whereas the negation of women in leadership roles threatens the wellness of our families, communities, and tribes. Whereas the lack of electoral justice displaces women and minority communities in leadership roles. Now let it be resolved that the South Carolina Indian Affairs Commission does hereby stand in unity with every woman standing here today. This was a unanimous vote and signed by the federally and state recognized tribes of South Carolina, the Waccamaw Indian people, the Edisto tribe, the Santee tribe, the Petee tribe, the Sumter Band of Shira Indians, the Catawba Indian Nation. Well, appeal to all of you, and especially the organizers of this rally. Now here's Kathleen.
Koo-ha-ah-hut. That is a greeting in my tribe's original language that means simply, are you good? My name is Kathleen Hays, and I am a daughter, a sister, and a wife. I have the honor of representing the Indigenous Women's Alliance of South Carolina, but I am so humbled and inspired by being here in solidarity with such a strong and powerful group of mothers, daughters, sisters, wives, and our allies. Thank you, South Carolina March, for allowing us this opportunity. This gathering is a message to those in power as well as those among us that the participation of women in the political process is valuable, if not essential. My tribe, the Caddo Nation of Oklahoma, as well as many other indigenous peoples group in North America, have a heritage distinct of our European neighbors in that women have traditionally carried the mantles of familial and societal leadership. But as we all acknowledge by gathering here, our current environment doesn't remember that particular tradition, a tradition rooted in this land and its varied peoples. The value of women's involvement in public leadership has been questioned and resisted since this land was colonized. And what we protest today ultimately is an attack on our worth. The worth of women is a very personal issue for me, and I am wearing red today because it draws from the shadows a lurking threat specific to Indigenous women in North America. In August of last year, a young Native American woman in South Dakota named Savannah was a nursing assistant, a college student, and a mother-to-be weeks from her due date. One day, Savannah left the apartment so she shared with family to help a neighbor and was never heard from again. Savannah's child was found alive 5 days later, and it took a few more days to find Savannah's body in a nearby river. It is difficult to imagine a more disturbing tragedy than Savannah's, but going missing and being murdered was a burden she carried through her Native American heritage. In 2008, the U.S. Department of Justice funded a report that found that Native American reservations can mourn murder rates for their women worse than total murder rates in countries warring against drug cartels. For some of our Indigenous sisters, it is dramatically worse. Our neighbors in Harnett County, North Carolina, home of the Koo-ha-ah-hut tribe, have a murder rate for Indigenous women nearly 18 times the national average. And as unbelievable as this may sound, Bonham County, South Dakota, where the Yankton Sioux tribe can be found, has a murder rate among Indigenous women 111 times the United States average rate. If that same murder rate the Yankton Sioux women bear were applied to all the women in Charleston, every year the harbor and rivers would return the bodies of nearly 400 stolen mothers, wives, daughters, and sisters. This is a resounding judgment that Indigenous women are not valued by the violent, nor those who have a duty to protect us from violence. Native American women and all women in the United States are not attributed the value that we deserve. But this is not an indicator of our worth. By our coming together, forming this community, and supporting each other, those in power will come to know the value and worth of their mothers, their daughters, their sisters, and their wives. In closing, I'd like to share wisdom originating from an elder of the Sioux people. The honor of the people lies in the moccasin tracks of the woman. Be strong with the warm, strong heart of the earth, my daughter. No people goes down until their women are weak and dishonored or dead upon the ground. Be strong in seeing the strength of the great power within you, all around you. Thank you.